We're all set. We've got our first microphone number 1 here. Nice and close, if you would, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, panel. This is Raju from IQVIA. This question is regarding Orange Book. As discussed, there is patent information available. Is that for public consumption? Because we don't see that as part of the Orange Book publication.
Hi, my name is Kendra Stewart. I was previously not introduced. I was not a panelist speaker, but I am the supervisor of the Orange Book. So in reference to your question, as I understand it, you asked if the patent information is available in the Orange Book?
Yes.
Yes, so actually the patent information is available. It is publicly available in the Orange Book. If you click on if you go to a drug product listing and click on the application number, then you would be able to see the additional patent and exclusivity information that is in the Orange Book.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, microphone number 2, nice and close for me, please.
Hello, I'm Anastasia from Vichy Health Sciences, and my question is for Elizabeth. If an applicant wants to file an ANDA suitability petition, at what point does the petition become public? And like at a quarterly or a yearly basis?
I believe we open a docket as soon as a petition is filed. And unfortunately, I'm looking at Kendra because I don't know where else to look. I actually don't know. I would have to get back to you on when the suitability petition becomes public.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Online question, please.
Sure, this question is for Chris. Does FDA charge any fees for pre-ANDA meetings?
No.
That's my kind of question. All right, back over to microphone number 1, please.
Hi, this is Ming from Allen Laboratory. This question for Con. Typically, if IOD is not available due to whatever the brand withdraw the product or something happened, so FDA will select an alternative from generic public market to the generic product as a new ILD. So currently, what is the timeline between the ILD not available, then industry file citizen position and waiting for new ILD to be identified so that the industry can go on for the bioequivalence study. So would I like to know how long we expect to wait to that new ILD to be identified?
I'll take this question. With respect to when an RLD is discontinued in the Orange Book, are we aware that it's not actively marketed status? As soon as we become aware, being the agency, we will take steps to move that brand product to the discontinued section of the Orange Book and then identify a reference standard sort of within the same action. I think the only sort of times where there may be a slight delay is if there's like a pending citizens petition or some other action that may prevent us from doing so. But that happens quite infrequently.
So you think within very short few months?
As soon as we become aware, then you usually see that information reflected in the next monthly update to the Orange Book.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Just one addition to that. Normally, we don't change the RLD, we change the RS. So, the RLD, even though they discontinue, they will remain RLD, but the reference standard will change according to market status.
Yeah, I see now it's a year ago, there's no ICE. ICE come recently. A year ago, it's still RLD, another new RLD. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Microphone number 2.
I have a question to Chris. So you mentioned there's a drug development meeting and the pre-submission meeting. So all of those meetings need to be submitted through the portal. My question is whether those meetings should be also formally submitted to the like the ANDA, just like pre-IND submission. So whether those meetings need to be, to prepare pre-ANDA submission to the ECTD backbone.
So I'm not sure I quite understand your question.
Because like pre-IND meeting, you need to submit to your IND or your IND sequence, like sequence 1. Then after the IND approved, I mean safe to proceed, you continue to file your amendment or other submission for the ANDA pre-ANDA meeting. Whether we need to do the same thing, whether we need to submit the pre-ANDA meeting packet to the ECTD.
Oh, okay. So, well, I think I understand. I'll try to answer, and if I'm not going in the right direction, just stop me. So once you submit, if you submit the meeting request for the pre-ANDA meetings, they automatically become linked to your ANDA.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we request people to get a pre-assignment number, so that once you submit your application, they're already tied to your application, and so they're tracked together.
Okay, so then if that's the case, then what's the sequence number we're going to be whether they're going to have a sequence number? No.
So they don't have a sequence number in terms of what you're thinking about as a standard.
So it's going to stand out of the
It has
formal submission, right?
Right. It has a different tracking number. It has
But
a
still,
it
it's still append to your whole ANDA.
exactly. It's
Okay.
attached. It's attached. That's why, and that's one of the reasons why we ask people to get pre-assignment numbers now, so that we can track them along with your ANDA directly when it comes in. It automatically goes under your ANDA program in our tracking system.
Okay, great, thanks.
Online question, please.
This one's for Commander Shen. Approximately how long does it take for the Orange Book to determine a new RLD or RAS if the old ones were discontinued?
Deja vu all over again. You want to go ahead and answer it again one more time so we've got it on the record?
Okay, so, and yes, we addressed this, but as soon as the agency becomes aware of a product's not marketed status, we will discontinue the currently identified reference standard and seek to identify a new reference standard, usually in an ANDA.
Yeah, back over here to microphone number 1, please.
Hi there, this is Raju again. This question is for Elizabeth. This is for the 505B2s. Is there a submission classification categories that we can look up and say this particular application would fall under a 505B2? Because there is submission class types that you have in place.
I'm not sure I exactly understand the question. There is guidance on FDA's webpage about 505B2 applications specifically that you might want to reference that guidance.
Sure.
But if you could clarify what you mean by
Yeah,
submission
from this
type.
morning I've been connecting with a few directors to see if there's a way that the 505B2 indications are mapped to the application codes on any of your systems that we can avail as public information.
I do not know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. I'll have to follow up.
All right. Would you be sharing the NDA team's contact as you mentioned during your presentation for the 505B2s?
Contacting the Office of New Drugs. All that information is in the guidance that has the same title as my presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Microphone number 2.
Sure. My question is related to 505B2s.
Thank you.
Question is there an AB rating can be given to 505B2? If that can be given, what is the time it has to be requested from the agency, while at the start of the 505B2 application filing or after it got approval? Or should it be discussed during the pre-IND phase with the agency, that what needs to be done in order to secure the AB rating after approval?
It's another good question, and I'm not the subject matter expert on B2s. That would probably have to be discussed with the Office of New Drugs if they're the ones reviewing that application. I can't give you more specific information from OGD. Sorry.
Okay, another online question, please.
This question is for Chris. For pre-NDA meetings, it looks like there is an option for face-to-face or denying face-to-face contact. Is there an option for written responses only?
Yes, you have the ability when you submit a request. If you prefer a written response, you can say that in your request. So, or the same goes for a teleconference. If that's what you prefer, you can submit that in your request.
Okay, microphone number 1, please.
Hi, this is Venkat. I have 3 questions. One question
Wait,
for
wait,
each
wait,
one of the
wait,
sessions.
wait. Were you not here for the happy hour? You're going to be buying people dinner too. One, and then you go back.
Yeah, the first one is related to the 505(b)(2), because you talked about NDA versus ANDA, and having a pre-meet would fall under pre-IND. So would this 505(b)(2) be like a PANDA or a pre-IND meeting?
Again, because that's a new drugs question, and I'm from the Office of Generic Drugs, I'm not particularly comfortable answering that question. I would direct you to the Office of New Drugs, but I believe it would be more in line with the pre-IND meeting.
Thank you.
Get one more. You get one more.
One
Since
more.
that was quick, go ahead, one more, real quick. All right.
Okay, this is for the Orange Book. We see that a brand or a reference listed drug is not marketed, and then you have a generic drug that is marketed or labeled as an RLD. As per FDA, if all the generic drugs are bioequivalent, can't we choose one of those marketed drugs as a generic or an RLD equivalent?
So the FDA advises that if an ANDA reference standard is identified in the Orange Book, it is preferred that you use the identified reference standard rather than one that is not identified. And I think if you had some further follow-up questions with respect to a particular situation, that's a situation where you submit a controlled correspondence to the agency to get more clarity.
Thank you.
Microphone number 2.
Okay, thank you. Under FDARA, there is an option to request competitive generic therapy when in a situation where there is no generic product that's approved and on the market. And it provides benefits along the lines similar to what the goals letter provides for competitive or for complex products. The question is, are there other criteria beyond just not having any approved and marketed generic that the FDA applies in order to get competitive generic therapy designation? Or is it automatic?
You've stumped them. Nobody's going to take that one.
Hey, free dinner for me.
Sure, we're the right folks to answer that question. I think that question could be best sent by sending an inquiry to the Office of Generic Drugs.
Okay. Online question for me, please.
This question is for Commander Shen. Following the one-time report on marketing status required by FDARA, when should we expect to see any updates required for our products posted on the Orange Book?
So under FDARA, just to give a little background, under FDARA, passed in July of 2017, a one-time market status was required for all of the actively marketed products in the Orange Book. So sponsors, both NDA and ANDA sponsors, were required to submit to the agency whether a statement as to whether they were marketing a particular product in the Orange Book or a product that was listed in the active section of the Orange Book was discontinued. We have about 20,000 of those particular products. And, at this point in time, the deadline has passed for those submissions. So we're in the process of triaging and working through the submissions submitted by the various applicant holders in the Orange Book. It's a little bit premature for us to give any timelines associated with that. I think in Commander Shen's presentation, he did provide a specific email address. I would give us some reasonable amount of time before any inquiries are submitted. But do know that we are working through those and hope to get those done, as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, microphone number 1, please.
I'm asking about 505(b)(2). For them, is there's any option for filtration from either Orange Book or drugs at FDA to filter these applications based upon the NDA number? Just if you have, if you search for certain generic or certain product, and then you need to filter which basis of the application is.
So I just want to make sure I fully understand your question. Are you asking whether a B2 can be identified from either drugs at FDA or Orange Book?
Yes, so I identify them now through the review reports. This is the only way, but if you would like to filter them through the search options.
Right. So strictly speaking from the Orange Book, we do not currently carry a data field to indicate whether a product is an original application under the B1 pathway or abbreviated B2 pathway. I don't think that Drugs at FDA carries that information either. Certainly I'm not from Drugs at FDA, so you'd want to verify that, but to my knowledge, they also do not carry that information. We do have downloadable reports that we provide to the public, and if you have access to additional information from perhaps another source, then you can certainly merge that information in a way, maybe another database.
Microphone number 2, please step right close.
Yeah. My question is made for Catherine. So right now, you know, there's some drug approved based on nanotechnology. So my question is, right now, did FDA have guidance or published guidance on how to get the generic version of this kind of nano-complex or nanomedicine?
Sure. So we have a couple of guidances that are available. The first is an overarching guidance on drug products containing nanomaterials, and that was put as a draft guidance, and it came out in December of last year. And that also, so that takes you through development all the way through. So it has some portions about generics, and then there's also product-specific guidances that are drafted by the Office of Generic Drugs. Some of those do incorporate nanotechnology. I think there's about a dozen of them right now. But those, again, are product-specific.
So right now, it's already published, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Online question, please.
This question is for Chris. When a product is not eligible for a pre-ANDA meeting, can you submit a product development related question via a controlled correspondence?
Absolutely. Yep. You can always submit a controlled correspondence. There's no there's not a requirement for it to be a complex product to submit a controlled correspondence, and you can always submit a controlled correspondence for any question.
Okay, microphone number 1, nice and close for me, please.
Hi, this question is for Kendra. Can you give me the details about the one-time marketing status, what your intentions are, how you go about what decisions you're making, and was it published anywhere, what the point of all that was?
So in terms of the one-time marketing status, so under FDARA, which is the act that renewed the user fees, Congress gave us an additional gift in the form of Section 804, which required not only firms to provide this one-time marketing status update, but it also had some additional requirements in terms of notifying the agency as to whether a recently approved product was not being marketed within 180 days or a product has been discontinued. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to recall all the sections. But this was not necessarily an agency-initiated request, if you will. But it was something that came down. It's part of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, again, under Section 804. But this one-time marketing status really was to, I guess, per my understanding, with this discussion of high drug prices and drug availability, was really to sort of correct the record for the Orange Book if you will. I mean, I think we do a fairly good job of managing and keeping the Orange Book up to date. You know, there are a lot of products, but I think there is some concern in the larger, at some point with some concern in the larger environment as to whether the FDA had a really accurate accounting of the drug products that were being marketed versus those in the Orange Book that were listed as active but were not actually available to the public. So I think that was the intent of this one-time marketing status update.
So will you be contacting the sponsors saying, if you're active and you're not marketed, we're going to move you to discontinued, or
Right.
you're discontinued, not marketing, we're going to withdraw you?
So this actually was, most sponsors were aware of this request, and they did respond in kind. And this statute essentially required sponsors to submit to the FDA a listing of the products that the applicant holder owns and was responsible for, and identify for us whether that product is currently being active, and so those products will stay in the actively marketed section of the Orange Book, and or whether they were not being marketed at this point. And so those products will move again to the discontinued list of the Orange Book. So that information was in statute, but we also did make sponsors aware through various campaigns via like emails, et cetera, as well as there was a link to the information in on the Orange Book website. Now, for those sponsors that may not have actually responded to those to that information request, we do have the right to move them to the discontinued section of the Orange Book.
Sorry, so if we responded to that and we have something inactive, you will tell us whether you're going to move it to discontinued if it's not being marketed, or if it's in our portfolio and we're ready to do, say, validation and launch it. How does that work?
Well, I mean, so it's a couple things. So based on that one-time market status report, there's not going to be sort of an additional follow-up. We're going to take that information that a particular firm has submitted to us and treat those products accordingly. So if the sponsor has told us that it's actively marketed, it will remain in the actively marketed section of the Orange Book. If a sponsor has told us certain products are discontinued, we will discontinue those products based on that report. Now, there are certain other provisions in 804 that discuss newly approved products and whether those products are being marketed. So in those cases, if there's a question or if we have any additional questions about marketing, we may reach out to a sponsor separate of that report. Or if we're reviewing that report and we have information contrary to what has been reported to us, we may reach out to you as well. Okay.
All right, and if there's anybody else in the room who has questions, please make your way to the microphones. But now let's go back to microphone number 1. Go ahead.
Hi there. This question is for Kendra. This is regarding NDC mapping into your Orange Book. Would there be ever a phase where you would have NDCs mapped so that this would help bridge data across the other systems that you collaborate with?
So at this time, there is no current plan to map NDC data to the Orange Book. Sorry.
Online question, please.
If there is exclusivity in the Orange Book for an indication which is expiring within the ANDA review cycle, can that indication be included in the ANDA proposed labeling?
I don't know that we are. I think that probably was best for this morning. That's a question better handled by this morning's presenters.
Okay. Let's move on. No? I'm getting the shake of the heads. People at home have already gone to sleep. Any other questions in the room? Going once? Please help me thank our panel for coming and speaking with us today. All right, and we are